listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast, your weekly post-apocalyptic news roundup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I'm your host, Derek. I am joined by Shawn.
Howdy.
And Stephanie.
Hello.
We have a great show for you today, and I know I say that every week, and it's true every week. However, this show in particular, you're going to want to stay till the very end. There has been some very interesting new information regarding aliens and their contact with Earth, possibly, not entirely verified, but it's interesting, and I'm going to be covering that. You might want to save this podcast for offline listening, just in case it gets taken down for whatever reason, based upon what we'll be revealing to you. But that's not all. That's not even all of it, because this week we have a huge under the radar indie game coming out called Cyberpunk, and we want you to know about it. We have a girl with no mouth coming out. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff happening in the post-apocalyptic space right this instant. Oh, and the Stand is coming out in December as well. So we're going to be talking about all that and more, because, oh yeah, by the way, Attack on Titan is now airing its fourth and final season. And so let's just jump right into it with Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah. This is it's a game that's been anticipated for a long time. I think they've been talking about it for 8 years. But they revealed it. They revealed the trailer, I think, in 2018. But anyway, so people are excited about it. It's to the point where the people who put together Wasteland Weekend out in California, they have a Cyberpunk weekend that they have put together, and a lot of it is actually based around this game, which is, it's kind of like this big, it's like not a LARP or anything like that. It's just kind of like a get together where people, dress up like in the costumes and everything. So people are really, a lot of the Wasteland people who like to dress up like Mad Max are now kind of doing more of a cyberpunk thing with lots of neon and, cybernetic stuff. It looks like a lot of fun. But anyway, so this game, it's been anticipated for a long time. It's a first-person RPG, a lot like something like Fallout 4, Fallout 3, okay, where you're building up your character, and a lot of the things that you do to build up your character are based on cybernetics and enhancements you can buy for yourself. There's a heavy storyline. It has Keanu Reeves in it. I mean, that's, all you need. Yeah, there you go. Sold. But the reviews have been amazing. Reviews came out yesterday. Well,
yeah, a lot of a roundup. Right?
Yeah, I did a roundup because a lot of the early reviews, people have got I think 16 hours. A couple people, IGN and some of the bigger ones got kind of like a block of time like that where they could check it out. And they all have pretty much said that it's their new favorite game. And I know that, the honeymoon stage, when you're playing a game, you get done and you sit down to write it up and you're like, this is the best game I've ever played. And then you play the next game and you're like, this is the best game I've ever played. But I think a lot of them, they're professional critics, and a lot of them kind of take that into consideration. They realize that honeymoon stage, and even with that in mind, they're still saying that this is probably one of the best games they've ever played. The scores are coming in at like 9.5 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Man. Okay, so that comes out the 10th, right?
Yeah, and by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out. So,
all right,
exciting.
Yeah, and that's by a little operation called CD Projekt Red.
Yeah,
which is a weird name for a company, I feel like.
Yeah,
CD.
They're a Polish company, and they made The Witcher. All the Witcher, the whole series of Witcher games.
Oh.
Witcher 3 won Game of the Year a few years ago.
Yeah.
if I recall, that was the year that Fallout 4 came out, and I kind of felt like, I was like, what is this Witcher game? Why are they taking all the all the air out of the room with their silly fantasy game when Fallout 4 is on the... And I loved Fallout 4. A lot of people didn't dig Fallout 4 for whatever reason, but I really, having played every major Fallout game, I was delighted playing Fallout 4. It was just so much fun. Yeah, but Witcher beat it. And I'm told, I haven't actually played Witcher myself, but I'm told that it is a fantastic game, and the people who loved Witcher 3 have been in my ear for years now, telling me CD Projekt Red, they know what they're doing. They're going to make a great game in Cyberpunk, and it's just got me so excited for it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool, too, is that company made GOG.com, which is, it used to be called goodoldgames.com.
Huh.
And it's like it's like a competitor to Steam. And it used to be just a bunch of old games that you could play, but now it's everything. Like everything's on GOG.com. So it's kind of cool that this game development company made this platform, this distribution platform that's just taken off, So that's another point for them.
Wow. Yeah, so, I'm wanting to play Cyberpunk, and I will be playing Cyberpunk. But I'm in the same boat as I was with Last of Us 2, which is also a huge favorite among the reviewers. Last of Us 2 came out this year, I believe, and it's just been blowing people away. So if you're a fan of post-apocalyptic stuff, this is a great year for post-apoc games. Yeah, I guess you could say that just about every year, but Last of Us 2, I've never seen reviews so glowing, I think. And then and I haven't played that yet. I'm still waiting for that. Here's the thing. You can play those games right now. I could play them. I could get a PS4. I could load up Cyberpunk on my Xbox One. But I don't want to. I want to see it in all its glory in the next gen console. So there was a little misalignment of the schedules there, where they're releasing these fantastic next gen games, and I can't get my hands on a next gen console without paying a scalper $200 for his trouble.
At least 200.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of effect that will have on this game's release too.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So, Derek, when we finally are able to play Cyberpunk, are we going to have like a pit fight to see which one of us plays first?
Well, here's how I see it.
Live streamed pit fight.
We invested $60 into Witcher 3 so that you could play that on Nintendo Switch. And so I would be happy to turn over the controller to you just as soon as you finish Witcher 3. And probably by that time, I'll be done with Cyberpunk 2 or something. So
yeah, no, that's fair. Witcher 3 makes me sick. Not like emotionally, just makes me feel real nauseous when I try to play it. And that makes me sad emotionally. So I don't really know. Like, is Cyberpunk going to even do the same thing? It might. I hope not. Oh, well. But VR games don't do that to me as badly, which is kind of weird. So, anyway, I guess I'll just wish Cyberpunk was in VR.
Yeah, let's put a caveat out there. Stephanie's VR experience is fairly limited because as many games as I've put on that device, when she boots it up, she just can't help but go straight to Beat Saber and spend all of her energy on that game.
I do, and by the time I get to another game, I'm very tired because Beat Saber is amazing.
We have the Walking Dead game, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
I've
we
killed
haven't got
some
real
walkers. I've killed some walkers, though. Pretty badass.
Yeah, one thing, by the way, okay, so we talk about a lot of topics here on this podcast. So let's talk about this Walking Dead game just real quickly. Most video games that deal with zombies, you kind of have your standard attacks, and they all kind of work. One thing the Walking Dead VR game did so well, I'm already loving it, is that, like, say for instance, you have a screwdriver. That's one of the first weapons you have. and you have to like stab it into the zombie. There's like, depending on where you actually land on the zombie with the screwdriver, the physics are completely different of that encounter. Like your screwdriver gets stuck in the zombie, and if you didn't get the brain, you like have to shove it in a second time. Mm-hmm. And then when you're like pulling it out, like his body's like coming with it, and you're like having to use the moment. It's amazing the level. You know, there's an axe in the game, and I found that like if I choked up on the axe and held it high, I didn't have the same leverage and impact as when I held the axe properly.
Interesting.
So they're getting very good at understanding those mechanics.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's the Walking Dead game, by the way, it is available on the new Quest, the Quest 2. That's what we have. And the thing about the Quest 2 is you don't have to buy a gaming PC in order to be in VR. It's just by itself, all in the headset. You have all the computing power you need to run it. So,
yeah, just be prepared. It takes a little while sometimes. It takes a little while for Walking Dead to load. So you just have to sit there and just be like, doo-doo. And about the time you're about ready to give up, it loads. So.
Yeah, you got to plan ahead.
But it's worth it. It's fun.
Yeah, and the Quest 2, that's sub $500. So, you know, traditionally to get into VR, you're looking at least $1,500 because you're spending $1,000 on a PC, and then you're spending $500 on the VR equipment. But now it's a lot more approachable to get in there. But you know, it'll still leave you wondering, you know, how much better could this be if I had a 2080 graphics card powering this, and
haptic gloves. If you have haptic gloves and you don't have to hold on to, you know, anything, it's gonna be. I mean, I feel like we're just
if you got money to burn.
I don't think haptic gloves exist.
Well, you know though, something you could do right now is you can hire me. I'll come and I'll watch the game on like a screen, and when you get hit, I will hit you. Ha! And you can really experience and get that immersive feel.
Oh, yeah. Not
cheap.
That's funny.
So let's just put it, if you have to ask how much, you can't afford it. Okay, so I derailed the Cyberpunk conversation to talk about Walking Dead, but back to Cyberpunk. It's going to be the standard cost for video. It's funny we don't ever have to talk about how much a video game costs because they all cost the exact same amount.
Yeah, $60. It's pretty crazy. But
60 bones. And, you know, I saw some headlines today talking about how they're going to be updating it on launch day. And even the reviews are now inaccurate because they've improved so much about the game. I'm just I'm super excited about it. And yeah, check out Shawn's coverage on the website post-apocalyptic.com, post-apocalypticmedia.com if you're traditional. And you're going to find that you know, he's listed all the major reviewers, what they said about it. It's a quick way to get up to speed on what people think about Cyberpunk. It's a deep RPG, and gosh, I'm pumped about it. Also coming up this month, let's talk for just a second about The Stand. When is it? The 17th?
Yeah, you're right. 17th, 6:00 Central, on CBS All Access.
CBS All Access. If you don't know, that is a subscription kind of a service. So, you know,
I'm not
on demand.
Sure do you know if the time is correct? You said 6:00 Central.
Yeah, that's what's on the post-apocalyptic media calendar.
Interesting. So. I know CBS All Access is sometimes weird about what time they release things. So if you're listening, you know, it's not a guaranteed time.
Yeah.
Feel free to check in earlier or later, but it will be released that day.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. Okay, yeah, we got Girl with No Mouth. That's coming out by the time you hear this podcast. Girl with No Mouth will be out.
Yeah. Yep.
And we are just about to get to the big alien news. But first, we have some other big news, and that is that Attack on Titan Season 4 is now airing.
Yay!
Steph, what do you think about episode 1? We just had it.
It was so good. Seriously, gosh, episode 1 is one of those episodes where you think you're watching the wrong show. You're, you're like, what is going on? What year is this taking place in? And am I really watching Attack on Titan? But yes, you are. And it is so good. And there's so many layers, and there's so many theories that I'm still delving into. I write about Attack on Titan a ton, or I'm going to, for this final season on post-apocalyptic.com or post-apocalypticmedia.com. So if you want to follow along on theories, here's the thing. I'm not a manga. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Because if y'all listen, you know that I pronounce everything wrong. But I'm not a manga reader. So these stories are for those who are not spoiled and want to talk about theories and stuff. So just keep that in mind. It's for a particular audience because I haven't had a chance to read those yet. So, but I'm super excited. Like, there was a big mystery at the end. I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but we'll just say that there was a character that we're debating about who it was. And you can join us there. We've got lots of people reading the articles, and it's just a lot of fun. So anyway, I am super excited about this new season. It is showing us a completely different viewpoint from what we have seen for the last 3 seasons.
All right, so I wanted to jump in there about that, about Attack on Titan, the first episode of season 4. You know, one thing that I really like about anime, and I'm not like a really, really in-depth anime viewer, but I've seen my fair share, and I really like that they tend to be very philosophical. They don't shy away from the deep questions and trying to wrestle with the tough stuff. And one thing I really liked about that first episode is how uncomfortable it made me feel. You're seeing basically a battle from the perspective of one side, and that side begins committing war crimes. Now, what do I mean by committing war crimes? There's one character who pretends to surrender and then ends up not surrendering, and that is a war crime. That is the end result of that is 2 armies that don't accept surrenders anymore, and just a race to the bottom as far as ethics is concerned. So it's setting up for, I don't know what they're setting up for. Are they setting up for us to just love when that side gets decimated? Are they setting it up so that we can actually question whether they were justified in what they did? I'm not sure. But if you're interested in deep philosophical questions, Attack on Titan really is for you. It's not just about the horror aspect. They really just use the horror aspect to bring in some philosophical questions about war, nations, tribalism, all sorts of deep questions. So that's just a pitch for Attack on Titan. I'm really enjoying it, and I didn't know I would.
It's really good.
Moving on to the topic that I teased here at the top of the show. This is the point where you're going to want to mark in your podcast. You need to save it, put it offline, put it on an air-gapped computer that doesn't touch the internet. This is real stuff. Now, if you are like me, probably you looked into aliens at some point in time in your life, and you saw like somebody living in a trailer in Arizona who like goes to Roswell every day and claims that they're talking to the aliens. Something seemingly on the fringes of society, people who have these alien encounters. And then, maybe some people who got too deep into drugs or something, and you're like, okay, I get it now. These people are just a little off in their minds. And to to be certain, false memories exist. We all have false memories. We all have misunderstandings about what we're seeing, and maybe even hallucinations sometimes. Like, these things happen, and so we have to weigh that when we're trying to understand if a story that somebody's telling us, they're not always lying. Sometimes they're telling the truth from their perspective, and it's still not true as you might think. But if you've been paying attention recently, let me just say, if you haven't been paying attention to recently to the alien stuff, then I'm going to get you caught up right now. So let's start out by talking about the sixth man to walk on the moon. Edgard Mitchell is his name. Did y'all know that?
No.
There's Stephanie knew because she wrote an article about him.
I wrote an article about him.
He died in 2018 at the age of 85. Sixth guy to walk on the moon. He publicly stated that he thought there was a cover-up involving aliens and their visits to Earth. Okay, so not only was Mitchell an astronaut, but he was also he was a test pilot for the Navy. He had a Master's of Science in Aeronautical Engineering, and he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1970. All right, so this guy's no dummy. I don't know if I could probably not be an aeronautical engineer if I wanted to. Like that's an intimidating course to go, and he did it, and he walked on the moon, a human being on the moon. In an interview with Dateline NBC, by the way, this is from a reputable news source, heavy.com. In an interview with Dateline NBC in 1996, Mitchell said he had met with officials from 3 other countries who had personal encounters with aliens from other planets. Not secondhand information. These 3 individuals said they had personal encounters with aliens. Let's see here. Edgar Mitchell, he also said that he personally knew witnesses from intelligence agencies and the military who convinced him the U.S. government had been covering up UFOs for 50 years.
Wow.
Does that sound like, I mean, it sounds crazy, right? It sounds like what you'd hear from, your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving, while he's like shaking or something. But this is a reputable fellow. Many of these folks are under high security clearances. They took oaths, and they feel they cannot talk without some form of immunity. It takes a brave person to come out on something like this. All right, so he said he also got confirmation from an anonymous official at the Pentagon. In 1998, he called on Washington, D.C. to acknowledge publicly what it knew about alien life.
Wow.
He said he had witnesses who could provide the truth about Roswell and other events. And this wasn't just a short-term, outlier in his life. In 2015, he was still talking about this 3 years before his death. This is a fellow that cannot be easily ignored. Could it be false? Could he have been lied to and believe the wrong people? Who knows? But this is not just something you throw out. Now that's old news. You may have known about Edgar Mitchell if you looked into this before. New stuff is happening. Fast forward to 2017. All right, this is just in the last couple years. 2017, the New York Times reports on the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which was begun in 2007 under the Defense Intelligence Agency. The Defense Department says it was shuttered. Okay, the Defense Department says, that we closed that down in 2012. 2012, it's long gone. But no. Insiders say it's still going. Why did they tell us that it wasn't going on anymore if it's still going? Now it's under the Office of Naval Intelligence, and it's called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. Okay, so they changed the name of it. and I guess they thought they could hide it. But like New York Times, apparently they read the budgets that pass the Senate and they see this thing in there and, start pulling at that thread. Find out it's still very much a thing. They got a hold of somebody named Eric W. Davis, who is an astrophysicist, another person who maybe we should listen to, who worked as a subcontractor and then consultant for the Pentagon UFO program since 2007. More than 10 years working on this. He said he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as March, and I believe this was March 2020, as recently as March, about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. Now, somebody like that. I mean, he's an astrophysicist, and he's talking about stuff that he's giving in these classical briefings. He has a lot to lose.
Yeah.
By coming out with something like that. Off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. I'm making the case, okay? You may go, oh, look at Derek. He's so biased. He really wants to believe this. But I'm making the case, okay? You got to have a lawyer making the case of one side. So, all right. So we've got that. Now, off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. That's pretty wild. Hard to swallow stuff. But he is an astrophysicist, and he is agreeing with Edgar Mitchell about that. So, 2017, there is a famous singer named Tom DeLonge. Do y'all know who Tom DeLonge is?
No.
All right. Well, clearly you were not as big of a Blink 182 fan as you could have been.
No, I was not.
Honestly, I don't even know. I'm like, is Matchbox 20 the same thing? That's a different band altogether.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's all kind of blurry in the 90s. Okay, so this guy, he goes from being a Blink 182 singer to being like somebody who talks about UFOs and phenomenon. He releases some videos in 2017 that he claims are UFO videos. And I don't know if anybody really paid attention to it in the mainstream, but eventually he releases these 3 videos, and they look like they're like fighter pilots talking about stuff they're seeing on screen. It's really weird. Years later, the Pentagon confirms that it's real. And not only is the video real, but they themselves still haven't identified what is going on in these videos. So, this is new. This is 2017.
Yeah.
And in fact, it wasn't even confirmed until 2019. So we're getting this information pretty recently. And I realize most of our listeners and viewers probably haven't seen these videos. So there's 3 of them. One of them is from 2004, I believe, and it has no audio. And it's not as interesting as the other 2, partially because it has no audio and partially because I think the other 2 are a bit higher fidelity. So what we're going to do as a treat to our viewers on YouTube, and, if you're listening, there's audio on these and you can hear it. We're going to listen to these videos. We're going to watch them and see what that's all about. So, by the way, these videos that we're about to watch, I downloaded directly from a government website. All right, so let's watch Go Fast first.
Okay.
All right, so what you see is like a camera that's trying to like get a fix on this.
Nickel 61 Tango Roger, over. Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get.
Did you box moving target?
No, I took an auto track.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Wow.
All right, so you see a dot, looks like flying quickly over the ocean, and some guys freaking out about it. It's about all the data you get from that video, I'd say. Y'all have anything to add before we jump into Gimbal?
Well, once they auto track it, I don't see. I'm trying to look at these numbers to see if anything shows the speed, but I don't think any of this does. Still, it's flying, and it looks like, is that over the ocean?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, and the fact that he's trying to grab it, he's trying to track it, he's trying to grab it with his whatever's tracker, and he misses it a couple times, and then he finally gets it, and he gets so excited that he was able to grab it. I think that's funny because I guess it means they've been trying to do it for a while, but that's scary stuff. I don't know. It's just flying in such a perfect straight line, you know. It's not straying, and
yeah, it's going so dang fast. Like, yeah, clearly that instrument was not built to quickly lock onto something that was going that fast.
Yeah,
and they're clearly very confused about what they're witnessing. Okay, so the most interesting video is the one we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. We're on, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
It gets kind of creepy at the end when it turns. It's like when a dog turns its head to look at you, you know. That craft kind of turned its head a little bit to look. It's like,
Yeah, and it seems to be operating on like some other propulsion mechanism than our traditional airplanes.
yeah.
So I don't think airplanes generally can just kind of slow down midair like that and rotate. All right.
Yeah,
so,
no, that was weird. Like you said, Shawn, when it kind of paused and seemed to turn or something. That was a little creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see these guys, they don't know what's going on. I mean, it looks like a blob from our perspective, from what we can see. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a lot of high fidelity, this is definitely aliens kind of a thing, but it is questionable. Like, why are they announcing that this is real? You know, what's up with this footage? It's just a piece to the puzzle for us, and it's a very interesting one because I don't think there's any precedent for the military releasing a video like that and announcing that they don't know what it is. I think in general they do something like classify it and, you know, freak out that the Russians might have some sort of propulsion technology that we need to know about.
Yeah.
So we've got, I'm laying out the case, what we know so far. We have, Edgar Mitchell and what he said. We have, the videos. We have the fellow who said that he's giving briefings on vehicles that were not made on Earth. Then this is something, that, you know, originally formed as Air Force Space Command in 1982, President Trump announced it would become an independent military branch during a meeting in June 2018. So if you notice, there's like an acceleration here. We've got a lot of stuff going on in 2017. And now the President of the United States is saying, hey, look, we're going to make a new branch of the military. First time that's happened in several decades. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be Space Force. So what had originally seemed kind of silly, you know, they even had that Steve Carell series, you know, kind of making fun of the idea of Space Force.
Yeah, that was a good show.
In this context, it looks like it's maybe like strategic, like it's getting serious with the aliens, y'all. We need to have something. And so that's, you know, that's not proof of anything, but that's just an interesting little tidbit in this flow. Now, so far I've covered stuff that you could know about, you know, coming up to this point. But there has been new revelations this week, December of 2020. There is a man named Haim Eshed, Sorry if that's mispronounced. He is a retired Israeli general who served as the head of Israel's space program for nearly 30 years. 3-time recipient of the Israel Security Award. He has a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering, doctorate in aeronautical engineering. He became the first director of the Challenge program, which is responsible for satellite projects for Israel. In October 2011. Why am I giving you the background? Because what he says is pretty crazy. And I just want you to know what kind of person is saying this. In 2011, he retired, having directed the launching of 20 Israeli satellites. No small feat. I've never launched a satellite myself, but I think a lot of math is involved.
Probably. Yeah.
A lot of critical thinking, planning. Probably not something a mentally insane person could accomplish very easily. Speaking in an interview, Eshed explained that Israel and the U.S. Okay, this is recent. This is real recent. Speaking in a recent interview. Israel and the U.S. have both been dealing with aliens for years. And the aliens are part of a galactic federation.
Crazy.
Mind you, he's 87 years old. 87-year-old former, people get old. Their brains get old. But come on. You gotta hear about this. He says, he gave further descriptions about exactly what sort of agreements have been made between the aliens and the U.S., which ostensibly have been made because they wish to research and understand the fabric of the universe. Aliens, they still got to research stuff. This cooperation includes a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives.
Dang.
He insists that Trump is aware of them and that he was, quote, on the verge of disclosing their existence. However, the Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so, saying they wished to prevent mass hysteria since they felt that humanity needed to evolve and reach a state where, quote, we will, quote, understand what space and spaceships are. Okay, this is reported in Jerusalem Post, a reputable. So I've told you about New York Times reporting on the videos and on the guy who says that he's been briefing a government about off-world vehicles, and this guy's been a scientist all his life in the upper echelons of it all, and he's saying that the Galactic Federation stopped Trump from revealing aliens to us. And he okay, so I'm done with my presentation. Any comments from the audience here?
Man.
Well, I think it's funny. I was reading some stuff on this earlier, and there's a whole post. I forgot where it was, but they post about the memes that have popped up because of this.
Oh, really?
And I think they're hilarious. And one of them said, there's no way this is real because Trump wouldn't be able to not tweet about it. And I thought that was so true. I thought that was funny. But
that's a good point.
I don't know. It's crazy to think about. And I think we could look at it from kind of the popular perspective, and we could say this guy's crazy. He's 87 years old. At this point, maybe he just is getting a little senile. Who knows? But on the other side of that, are we conditioned to think that anyone who says anything about that is crazy?
Yeah.
Automatically. And that could be a very real possibility. This guy is credible. He even says that he didn't want to talk about this before, but he knows that these days acceptance of these types of things is more readily available. People are more willing to listen to kind of, stray opinions. And also he's retired. So he says he doesn't have anything to lose. He said in this article, he's won all his awards. He's done all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really need to prove anything to anyone. He is just telling you Israel and the U.S. have. And what I think is fascinating is he's not just saying aliens. He's not saying like one group of aliens. He's saying a galactic federation of aliens, like from all over.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well,
it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's exciting to even think about, especially from a sci-fi fan,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that part really does, resonate. There's so many things that you can maybe imagine you wish you could say about your job or your boss or your company, and you can't because you need to have an income.
Yeah.
And so when he says, I'm at the end of all this, I'm 87, I'm going to say what I want. It does resonate with me. I will put the caveat out there that he is publishing a book on these topics. So you should also factor that into the math. But people are pointing out they can't find the book. Like there's no like pre-order that's easily
that's
available.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Maybe it's being suppressed by the Galactic Federation. I will say, this, oh my gosh, when the government keeps good information from me, it just makes me so mad. Like, we pay them. They are our employees, and they are not supposed to keep good data from us.
Right.
And so I was yelling and throwing stuff when I first heard about this, because I'm like, if they're keeping aliens from me, I will just like burn down their buildings. I don't care. I'm so mad about it.
Right. Like on one hand, I get it in that, just look at how we as a society have responded to so many things in 2020. And I get aliens being like, you guys aren't ready for this, On the flip side, we also know what happened when the U.S. was a little dishonest about mask wearing at the beginning, to try to save more masks for healthcare workers. And now now half of the country doesn't even believe masks work because of that. So hiding information in the long run tends to hurt us more than help us. So, yeah, that is, geez, it's so interesting. I hope it's true.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good on you, Edgard. If they wanted to keep it secret, well, too bad, because he just told us. So, the cat's out of the bag, people, and aliens. But I will say this, like, if aliens, they're not interested in hanging out with us, I get it. Imagine, if we found a planet of sentient tigers, and they're like, sometimes they kill, sometimes they just like attack. I think that a peaceful alien race would probably see humans like that. Like, we still have murder all the time.
Yeah.
We still have, these wars and backstabbing. We do a lot of stuff that would make an alien very nervous to be around us. And in fact, we even have a lot of current media that shows us not responding well to first contact.
Yeah.
So,
true.
If especially, I think the longer your life is, the more secure you are, the less likely you're going to want to roll the dice, hanging out with a half evolved species.
And then we're going to want to ride on their ships with them and colonize and move on to other planets. And
so many annoying questions. They're like,
it's like, please, we don't want to take you with us. Ugh.
Gonna have to explain the Gorp converter again.
Yeah, someone's gonna oh gosh, someone would probably try to steal their tech and backwards engineer it, and probably not even ready as a human race to handle that. We can barely handle our own planet. But aliens, if you're listening, some of us would love to meet you. I mean, we're not all bad. A lot of us are really great. So there you go. I'm sure they're listening to this podcast right now. It doesn't even have to get, published first. They're listening right now.
That's probably it.
I don't know. But it is exciting. And those UFO videos are pretty compelling. So, yeah, here's hoping it's true.
All right. So thus ends our foray into the alien conspiracy. I'll say, I really hope that it's true. I want to believe. But I don't have a but. I don't have a but after that. It's weird. I can't sit here and say, oh, Edgar Mitchell is just a goofball, and this Israeli guy clearly doesn't know what I do as
right.
35-year-old podcaster in Austin, Texas. So, it really, if I'm going to appeal to authority or, science matters, I can't ignore these guys. Sure, there's probably going to be a lot of scientists who are CIA funded who are going to oppose it. But how do you explain those videos? Tell you what, if you want to pose that, you got to explain those videos really well to me. Otherwise, I'm going with the fun theory on this.
Yeah, all in on the fun theory.
All right. Well, that will wrap up the topics for us. I'm going to make a few announcements, and then we'll wrap up. First announcement: at the end of this month, we're going to be handing out awards for the top 2020 short film, top 2020 movie in post-apocalyptic media, the top games. We're going to cover our favorites for the whole year. So stay tuned. Look for that. We have a calendar on our website that we are filling to the brim with post-apocalyptic announcements and release dates. Subscribe to that. That's probably one of the most valuable things that we're offering to people right now, is to be able to just subscribe to that calendar. It automatically imports it into your own calendar if you want it to, or you can just go look at the calendar and see what's coming up. It's the fastest and easiest way to be on top of things. When The Stand releases, you're going to be there on opening day. You got time to plan a watch party if you want to. Also, big thank you to Morning Owl Media. Is it Morning Owl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I should have practiced that. Morning Owl Media, doing a great job with this podcast, with the promotions. Check it out. If you're doing a podcast, you need somebody to edit videos, whatever. Check out Morning Owl. Great thank you to Vertical Sprite, who does our intro, the British voice in the beginning of this podcast. You may be wondering, who is that? And how can I hear that voice some more? It's not Shawn. Shawn has a great British voice. In fact, why don't you lay that on us right now?
Good day, mate.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
Better than mine.
All right. That's complex. That's like
that is,
British person who got sent to Australia because they were in prison. And
it makes fun of how Americans think British and Australian accents are the same. It's just many levels.
So layered.
Lots of levels. There's levels that we're not even going to tell you about, but think about it. Thank you all for watching and listening. We will be playing Cyberpunk ASAP and getting some coverage on that. Follow our website and get on the email subscription if you want to know about The Stand, Cyberpunk, other things that I'm not naming right now. There's a lot going on. I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but we are very grateful to you, our readers and listeners. Please tune in every week. We are releasing on Fridays this podcast. This is Derek reminding you to always stay safe and be ready for the big one. Bye, y'all.
Bye.